Now on 5, he says he can see the future and saw major terrorist attacks before they happened. But with all the skeptics, can he actually be proved right? It's Extraordinary People, the man who dreams the future.
I've got to go to bed now, see what I can dream, but it's not really up to me. I don't believe these dreams are in my control. Something higher than us decides whether or not you can see this stuff.
This man believes that his dreams are a window into the future. He claims to have foreseen some of the world's most dramatic recent events.
Sometimes I actually see very, very clearly what will happen, like with 9/11 or the 7/7 bombings. I was in the tunnels, I saw the flash, I smelled the smell of the underground.
He has amazed an American academic.
Christopher Robinson's ability has changed the way that I see the world.
And convinced a senior US military advisor.
Having been exposed to Chris, it became clear that some people dream about the future.
Chris Robinson.
And in Japan, he's famous as a crime-solving psychic superstar.
Chris Robinson!
But there are many who are highly skeptical.
Don't take anything that a medium or a psychic tells you as gospel. Treat it all with a very large pinch of salt.
Okay, let's go to bed.
Are Chris Robinson's premonitions just coincidence? Or did he really dream the future?
Everybody I know that's dead has come to talk to me. I've got 2 children by another relationship which I've had many years ago, and their grandfather hanged himself. Now, in a dream 4 nights before he did that, I saw him do it. For centuries, since recorded time, people have reported having dreams which are giving them information about things that haven't happened yet. Premonitions. I can see something that happens next Wednesday. I am seeing a clip of my future.
Chris Robinson says that for 20 years, he has been dreaming the future, often disturbing visions of disasters and terror attacks.
707 from Pan American. That's in Heathrow, that's about 1962 or 3. That's when you could get right up and there was nothing in the way. No fences, no barriers, no terrorists, nothing. The first dream that I can remember that was unusual, and I would say was precognition, was Chernobyl. And I had a dream that a big radioactive mushroom cloud was heading towards England from the east. 5 days later, we learnt about Chernobyl. And that made me sit up and think, was that just coincidental? You're left with a feeling inside, something's going on here, this is not just a dream. More and more dreams came, and it became evident to me that this was not just some coincidental match between dream and event.
Everybody dreams, but Chris Robinson seems to be a lucid dreamer, a rare skill estimated to be possessed by less than 1 in 2,000 people. One of the skills lucid dreamers have is the ability to plan their dreams before they even go to sleep.
What I have been doing for a number of years now is writing a question on a piece of paper, thinking about the question when I go to sleep, writing down the dreams, and comparing what I've written from the dreams with the question I've asked to see if it's been answered. Sometimes it has. Over the years, I've worked out that Dogs mean terrorists. Snow and ice means imminent danger. Any kind of meat that I see, anything made of dead animals, will translate always into carnage, dead people. And usually when I see dogs, snow and ice, and meat in the same dream, expect something dreadful within a day or two.
Chris lives in Dunstable with his wife Bessie and his 3 children, 15-year-old Melissa, 11-year-old Danielle,
Hi, Jerry.
and 8-year-old Jerry.
How was school?
For the Robinson family, dreaming is part of everyday life.
He used to tell me about when he told people in a building that people were gonna crash into them, I mean. And then I think it was the next morning, all the planes came crashing into the building.
Chris believes that his precognitive dreams may have begun after he went through a near-death experience.
They discovered I had a congenital heart defect. And of course, for that operation, they disconnect your heart and momentarily you're dead. I rushed back and woke up, and soon after that, these strange dreams about being in another world and seeing things that haven't happened yet started to happen.
5 years ago, a Mori poll revealed that nearly 50% of British adults believed in precognitive dreams. But scientific bodies would not consider investigating Chris's claims until a major US university decided to give him a chance to prove himself.
Well, it's nearly done now.
Sharing the pain of body health. A new series starts 19th of September on 5.
I'm often asked what it's like in my nighttime world, and the only way I can describe it is when I go to sleep, I'm like Doctor Who. I can travel backwards and forwards in time and space and see things that other people can't. My whole life at the moment is geared to better understanding this and developing ways where we may be able to get more information and prevent people dying in terrorist attacks.
Chris's claims are so extraordinary that he was unable to find anyone in the UK prepared to take his premonitions seriously. So in 2001, he approached a renowned psychiatrist at the University of Arizona, Professor Gary Schwartz. Initially, Schwartz was highly skeptical.
And my first question was Christopher Robinson insane? Is this a delusional man who's semi-paranoid and is simply just inventing a whole series of misperceptions and self-deceptions? And then he said that he would like to come to America if I would just give him the time to be able to let him show under controlled conditions that what he did was for real. And so we did this, what we call 10-day in Arizona experiment.
I should go to university if I live long enough and become clever.
Over the course of 10 consecutive nights, Schwartz asked Chris to dream about an unknown location to which he would be taken the following day. Chris was challenged to identify the main features of each mystery location before he visited them.
And the further along we went, the more powerful the evidence was, and also the more unbelievable the evidence was.
This is a bottle of champagne, isn't it?
Yes, but let me tell you.
By the end of the Arizona experiment, Professor Schwartz believed that Chris's premonitions had successfully identified the outstanding features of each of the 10 locations.
And the world will believe me one day.
The history of research on dreams is mostly of either a psychological nature or a biological nature. Psychological nature is where dreams are seen as a way of processing information that is difficult for us to deal with in waking life. Then there's the biological explanations that the dreams are a side effect of rapid eye movement sleep, and there's various biochemical mechanisms that are associated with dreams.
But nothing in conventional dream research quite prepared Professor Schwartz for his encounter with Chris. It has led him to develop a controversial new dream theory.
There's this other area which deals with the energetic and even more spiritual aspects of dreams, that if there are psychic capabilities where we can receive intuitively information from invisible realms, then the dream state becomes a state where our rational mind has been shut off. And so therefore we're potentially open to receiving information, but it's a way for this information to, if you would, safely enter consciousness. And of course, Christopher Robinson is an example of someone who came to discover these dreams were potentially meaningful.
But it was during the experiment that Chris had a dream that would totally change the way that Professor Schwartz thought about precognitive dreaming. The date was Saturday, the 8th of September, 2001.
A few days into the Arizona experiment officially taking place, Christopher reported in the bar at the hotel, so multiple people heard this, that he had a nightmare. And he described this nightmare that he saw planes were crashing into tall buildings and that thousands of people were dying. And frankly, I forgot about it. It wasn't part of the experiment. But when Christopher went home, he continued to have these dreams, and they continued to develop. And then 2 or 3 days later, 9/11 occurs. When that happened, I was personally, if you would, traumatized, not just by the horrific nature of the event, but that someone that I knew who came to me for help was getting information that if we had been able to know about it ahead of time, could have potentially prevented it.
Professor Schwartz's growing belief in Chris's abilities is now shared by the millions who watch a hugely popular Japanese crime show.
CIA 投資捜査官 Chris Robinson 緊急渡米で完全解明に挑む
Here, Chris has become a psychic superstar, trying to locate missing people and solve murder cases through his dreams alone.
私の夢に現れた女性は、彼女は学生をしていたと教えてくれました。
For me, it is important that the dreams can help people, and for 20 years they have been. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people got a lot of help out of what me and other people like me are able to do.
There's little doubt that Chris is sincere in his convictions, but an entertainment show is not going to really prove that Chris can see the future. For that, a more scientific approach is needed. Professor Chris French is one of Britain's best-known psychic skeptics. He's the head of the Anomalous Psychology Research Unit at the University of London, and he's followed Chris Robinson's work.
Chris, for a long time, has claimed that he has these dreams that then come true. I think the claim that kind of Chris or anybody else can actually dream the future is one that is worth taking seriously, because you look back historically and there have been so many, many cases where this is precisely what people have claimed happens. I have to say, as a scientist, I'm not convinced that precognition is real.
But Chris Robinson is so convinced that he really can dream the future that he's prepared to undergo a scientific test devised by Chris French. It's the psychic versus the scientist.
The reasons for doing the test are, firstly, because if Chris really can do what he says he can do, then that is absolutely amazing. It doesn't fit into our current scientific understanding, and if he really could do it on this occasion, that would be a real challenge to science.
He is very sceptical. He is very scientific.
Hi, Chris, how are you?
And I think that there are mistakes that he makes by being like that, because some things just don't lend themselves to mechanical science. But that doesn't mean they don't exist.
The way that we intend to test Chris is by taking him on 3 different occasions to different locations. He will know that he's going to be taken somewhere, but he won't know where that place is.
Chris French believes the earlier Arizona experiment was not sufficiently rigorous, so he's added 2 important elements to ensure this test is scientifically credible. There are 6 different locations, only one of which will be visited each day. An independent observer will examine Chris's dream notes and decide which of the 6 locations they best describe. Then the actual location to be visited will be decided randomly by the roll of a dice. Only if this location matches the observer's choice will the experiment be deemed a success. The experiment will be repeated 3 times to avoid simple coincidence.
If Chris can do this, then it's amazing, and we ought to take it seriously, try and understand it and study it and see if we can use it.
Please show me tonight in my dreams the key features of the target site tomorrow. The dream started like this. Paint white, sheets painted all white. Now in the dream, it wasn't my house. It was a person I knew when I went to school who was an artist. He could draw and paint anything. So painting is like a keyword, if you like. You have got to choose from your pool of places which one you think that little lot matches the best.
Out of the 6 possible locations, the independent observer decided that Chris's dreams most closely matched location number 4, the private home of a painter called the House of Dreams. But the roll of a dice produced number 2, a different location. It's the Ice Bar, a cocktail bar made entirely from ice.
An item of clothing on.
On we go. Most of my stuff is disasters and terrorism, and they're the kind of things that precognitive dreams naturally show. They don't show whether you're going to be in a shopping mall tomorrow.
What do you think?
Well, it's all white, isn't it? There's a lot of white. From my point of view, it can't be argued that I am not in a building completely surrounded by white.
I don't think we're surrounded by white.
Yeah.
I think it's generally kind of quite dark in here.
For Professor French, Chris Robinson's response demonstrates why it's so important to have the dreams matched to a location by an independent observer before the dice is rolled.
As I say, my worry would be that because there is a lot of detail in your dreams, and there's a lot of associations and a lot of possibility for interpretation, that I wonder if we'd have actually ended up taking you to any of the 6 possible locations today, whether once you got there, you'd have said, around that, now that's why I dreamt about that, because it links in with this. In terms of how we have set up the test, then Chris has failed on this trial.
I mean, in my dream there were white sheets, and I can obviously relate the word sheets to ice. This was an observer dream, so I am watching other people. It's not as if I'm part of it. And I'm rolling or unrolling something. And that could be, if you're in a printing works, it could be rolls of paper. Somebody'd now made a pie, so you could have been pastry. And we then put this pie in the oven. And there was a joke about not putting the oven on for too long so you don't burn it. And I see these faces of people go past me.
After reading Chris's dream notes, the independent observer decided that there were connections to location number 1, St. Bride's Crypt, which is in Fleet Street and has historic links to the printing industry. But the roll of the dice led not to St. Bride's Crypt, but to location number 5, a city farm.
Right, Chris, just bear with me.
Take it off. There's a surprise.
I can't see really very much of anything that corresponds to what Chris dreamt about. Then this one's a definite miss.
Absolutely, I agree with you. This one definitely has to, on any stretch of the imagination, yeah.
It's the third and final night of the test, and tomorrow is Chris's last chance to prove his point.
In the dream, I'm in a sort of a room, and there are people that are sort of people. And then in big letters, I put dead. It's in this room. They were actually glass cups and glasses. Now, cups is always the same. Cups, if I see them, mean dead people. And if we don't go where there are dead people, I don't know what that was all about.
This time, because of the references to dead people, the observer again selected St Bride's Crypt, location number 1, as the best match. And the dice was rolled. Number 1, St Bride's Crypt.
Dead people are what all last night's dream was about. It was all about survival of consciousness, being dead but being still alive.
It's okay, it's not deep. You're standing on that's it.
All right, I got it.
The other leg as well.
Yeah.
No, you just stand there.
You certainly found some strange places. This feels weird.
Have a look round.
My glasses are steamed up. Dead people.
You'll be pleased to know that
she picked the right
this
one.
one was a hit.
That's why I got dressed up for it, I told you.
I'm kind of quite pleased, to be honest, that Chris has got a hit. But taking the experiment as a whole, all 3 trials, it certainly isn't the case that we can say, yep, we've proven that Chris really can do what he thinks he can do. We haven't shown that Chris can actually dream the future under these particular conditions.
So as far as mainstream science is concerned, Chris has failed this particular test.
One of the things I've tried to explain to scientists is that the information is bandwidth limited. You're only seeing a silhouette of the information. You can't tell what pattern is on the shirt, how many buttons it's got, but you can see the fundamental outline of the event.
Professor French may be highly skeptical that precognition is possible. But politicians and military planners in Washington have been taking people like Chris Robinson very seriously indeed. John Peterson has worked for the US Secretary of Defense and was on the National Security Council staff at the White House. He's now president of the Arlington Institute, a military think tank specializing in futurology, the science of using intelligence to predict future events.
I have a background in the military, and I worked in the White House at the National Security Council staff, and I became aware of a program called Stargate. This was a program throughout the Cold War where the United States intelligence community used psychics to essentially spy on the Soviet Union. I had heard the briefings in the Pentagon and other places, and it was no question that this was real. And that convinced me that there is far more to this reality than what conventional mainline science understands and admits. And then I've met 8 people, I think now, who started having dreams about 6 months before 9/11 of people jumping out of high-rise buildings. And so it was clear that this precognizant capability and process existed out there. And if we could learn how to interpret it, then it would be a very significant transition to a whole new era.
John Peterson is now developing a website which will recruit people who have dreams and premonitions from all over the world. A database will sort through their dreams using pattern recognition technology. This will create visual maps of events that may one day happen in the future. It's all remarkably like the Department of Pre-Crime in the Tom Cruise film Minority Report, but this is not fiction. John Peterson really believes that by doing this, he could create an early warning system which could help to identify and possibly prevent unexpected disasters, including terrorist attacks.
before every major event that comes along, whether it's 9/11 or the tsunami and so on, common people, not just people like Chris Robinson, start having unusual dreams. And these are anomalous dreams. They wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat and they say, golly, I've never had any dream like that before. And it's qualitatively different, and they know that it means something. Our program called Weather Report would have profound implications for being able to anticipate big events.
Chris Robinson's claims of precognition are finding a ready audience in the US. He has now been contacted by the family of a woman missing in the canyons and deserts of Arizona. Will he be able to use his psychic powers to help them?
Jessica, 8 o'clock tomorrow on 5.
At home in Dunstable, Chris is going through his emails.
Welcome to AOL. You have email.
There's only one that's of any interest.
Chris has a website and is part of an international group of psychic detectives. He gets many requests for help, but today he's received a rather unusual plea.
Just had an email from a group of people in America. They want me to go and help them to look for a missing aeroplane.
He's been contacted by a colleague in Arizona who's trying to help a family whose daughter has gone missing in mysterious circumstances. On Sunday, the 24th of September 2006, a small plane took off from a local airport in Arizona. On board were two friends. They were on a sightseeing trip over the spectacular Arizona landscape. The pilot, Bill Westover, and his passenger, Marcy Randolph, were due to return that same afternoon. Neither the plane, the pilot, nor Marcy have ever been seen again. Their inexplicable disappearance has baffled everyone: the police, the aviation authority, and most of all, their families. Marcy's father, Phil Randolph, has spent the last year in an increasingly desperate search to find his daughter. So far, he has found absolutely nothing.
We're trying to find this plane. It's in Arizona, the area is so huge. That's the deal. We're going to find this plane. Find my daughter.
In England, Chris has read through all the accounts of the disappearance and believes he can use his dreams to help. He's agreed to travel to Arizona and meet Marcy's parents in a week's time.
For me, the importance is just to help the other people. You know, I don't make any money out of this. I don't do it for myself. I do it to help the people.
Before he leaves, Chris says he's going to try and dream of the whereabouts of the missing plane and its passengers. He's also asked one of the film crew to bring him an object, a completely random object, which he hopes will act as a catalyst to help him focus his dreams.
This is last night, yeah? And the question is, please show me what Leslie is bringing with her and link it to what happened to Marcy Randolph and the missing plane in Arizona. Let's have a look.
In the box is a teething ring with a silver bear attached. Now Chris must see if there are any connections between the object and his dream.
Oh, that's nothing.
He has his dream notes with him.
Well, that's the nearest we get. How you saw it's never got anything to do with what it really is. But there might be something to do with bear, in terms of the plane or the place. Let's say there was a place called Great Bear something, and we circled around it. I still find it interesting that I've got, you know, in a dream, I've been told to draw something like that. And there might be a reason later on why what I saw there is what it is. When I want to have good dreams, I try and go somewhere away from everybody else where I can sleep undisturbed and where it's quiet. I go to the caravan, which is virtually in the middle of nowhere, and after 10 o'clock at night, it's really quiet. One of the things that I really want to do is investigate these dreams and how we receive them. And right now, I believe that there's another intelligence way beyond us that is trying to advise us and help us make a better world. These are my notes that predicted the 7/7 attacks in London. In the dream, I was in the railway tunnel. I heard the explosion, I saw a flash, but I could smell the smell of the underground. And I heard all the people screaming. I've written on this page, I see all the faces of those who died.
Chris is due to leave for America, and tonight his dreams will be especially important.
Hopefully I can get about 10 hours sleep, and 10 hours of dream time.
I'm trying to find my daughter in the plane and breathe.
Somebody was shouting, lost power.
We're going to find this plane.
It was as if it had lost power. What else was in this dream? What else was in this dream? Yes, I've dreamt of this camera before, and it had roll film. It was a 120 roll film. Yeah, the instruments were going funny. Something strange just before crash. I was in the aeroplane and something had happened and all the instrumentation had stopped working, and it was as if it had lost power and everything had gone off. And in the dream there was something to do with nuts and bolts. I think something sheared off or fell off or in the engine. Well, the other information I had was to do with 3 and to do with 120. And I think that's some kind of heading.
Phoenix, Arizona. There's a lot at stake now, and Chris believes he needs some dream practice. He asks the film crew to choose a place completely unknown to him so that he can try and identify it in his dreams.
Tonight I will say, please show me where I will be going tomorrow. And I will go to bed as early as I can to do that. You miss so much if you don't go to bed early. And tomorrow should reveal all. There's something to do with 360 degrees. I don't know if it's on a chart or it's a place which is circular.
Next day, Chris is driven to the location he knows nothing about. The drive takes over 2 hours through the Arizona desert.
This is an exploration for me. You know where we're going, I don't. Until I get there, I ain't got a clue. There were references in the dream to going round in circles and going round in tracks and going round 360 degrees, and I'm going round in circles. So circles are hugely important to the place we're going. 360 degrees. Is this it? Everything circles, even the waste bin. Even that. Even that. It's all circles, isn't it? I like the circles.
It's 5:30 the next morning, and Chris says that he met the missing Marcy Randolph in his dreams.
So in this dream, I was talking to the girl who's missing in the airplane. And she's explaining to me about her as a girl, and I think what I'm seeing is all the things that are going through her mind as she realises that this is the end. And she's telling me she loves her mum and dad so much. Doesn't scare me when I see things like that because I've seen it so often. I guess for normal people, if they had a dream like that, they'd wake up and call it a nightmare.
Marcy Randolph has now been missing for almost a year. Despite a huge search operation over many months, not a trace of her nor the plane has been found. Joining Chris on the search is retired DEA officer Kelly Snyder. Kelly now runs a missing persons bureau with a difference. All of his agents claim to be psychics.
Psychics have been, providing information to police departments, for a long period of time. But because of the stigma attached to psychics working with police, there's not a lot of police that would basically tell you that, yeah, I do work with psychics. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a tool, and quite frankly, don't care what people say. If you're finding someone for a family or finding a child for mother and father, why would you care about what people say about psychics?
Marcy's parents asked for their initial meeting with Chris to be in private. Two days later, Phil and Linda agree to the search being filmed and take Chris to a desert location north of the airport.
This is what he saw coming south from Phoenix.
It was at this exact spot that their daughter's plane disappeared off the radar.
And, which is
Because it's dreams that brought me here, I'm trying to match dream to sensible probability.
Agreed.
I feel quite nervous about this because it's a lot at stake and we're going to be working with people that have lost their child, and it is going to be like looking for a needle in a haystack.
If I knew what path it was on.
Yeah. I've got 3 sets of numbers which would seem to be a probability. Yeah. And would I have got those numbers by accident back in England, having never stood here? And I think that's unlikely. I desperately needed, before we came here, the first point of reference. Where do we start our search from? And that was the box and the bare circle. How you saw it's never got anything to do with what it really is. Let's say there was a place called Great Bear something, and we circled around it.
Chris's dream in England has provided a surprisingly precise link to the area. There is a place related to the object. It's called Bear Circle.
Bear Circle, we now know, is 5.6 nautical miles from where the plane disappeared from the radar scope. That's given me a point to search from.
Chris is sleeping at the Randolph family house, in Marcy's bedroom. He feels that being close to her will help his dreams.
Here's my question for tonight. We want to find Marcy. Please show me how to do it from Bear Circle. Time for bed, and whoever's out there, we need all the help we can get.
Everybody is anxious about what Chris's dream may reveal.
You're talking a huge amount of debris, and you're talking a skid pattern that's going to, be seen from the air no matter what altitude you're at. So we're talking a small little airplane.
Morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How about you?
Oh, I got a load of strange stuff here.
Well,
And the first thing that happened is I sort of went up out of here, and the voice of a lady said to me, "You have got to take me home. I simply have to be home." Now, I was sort of thinking that that is what she was thinking at about the time this started to go wrong. She wants to go home, and she's saying that. But there was one interesting pattern, and that looked like this. So it went like that, and like that. And I don't know if that could be directions. But if that is the last known point, if that is Bear Circle, and then if that was 120 and that was 60-something, that would have to be a point on the map.
Yeah, that's about Rattlesnake Canyon.
Is it? Here. But I really, 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 really don't think she's very far away.
The search team is off to hunt for the missing plane. Their flight plan is based purely on information from Chris's dreams. Marcy's mum, Linda, waits at home.
Her birthday was on December the 8th. She would have been 45. It doesn't matter if they're a young child or an adult. They are still someone's child, and I don't care if they're an adult, you miss them maybe even more. There's hope. Never, never give up hope. It's a disbelief that this can be happening to our family.
After 3 hours in the air, the search team have found nothing. And with fuel running low, they're forced to return to the airport. So far, they've only been able to fly half of Chris's flight plan. There'll be another chance tomorrow. Tonight, Chris will ask his dreams to tell him what happened to Marcy. To help him connect, he'll sleep with some of her possessions.
The training shoes here. I'm going to place a t-shirt and other clothes here.
I mean, just too many things are coming together, so doesn't mean we're going to find it today, but we're close.
I want to take some bug spray too.
Yeah, all right, whatever.
And sunscreen. We are in Arizona.
Are they dead or alive? It's clear that they're not, at least last night, in the same place. I've got the two different places. I've got the place where it's all dark, and I've got a place where it's all bright and you can't even turn the light out. So that could be a heaven and hell situation kind of thing.
Let's roll.
All right.
It's 10 in the morning, and they're heading out to an area called Diablo Canyon, the final leg from Bear Circle.
So there's two major feeds into Canyon Diablo here, one coming up the other one. And you're just circling Chris's spot right now.
I felt really like this is where it happened. I felt really like crying, like tears in my eyes, and I thought, no, this is it.
Suddenly, Chris spots something on the ground.
But the object was definitely an unnatural shape. Definitely something shining down there, aluminium.
We saw an object that was a metallic item. Could be aluminum, could be tin, could be metal, could be a rooftop that blew into the valley. But there are no structures anywhere in that valley. So now we need to find out what it is.
When they land, they receive exciting news. They're told that 3 tourist helicopter pilots have reported seeing debris in the canyon. While Kelly goes to tell Chris the news, Phil immediately makes some calls to get confirmation.
We got a report by 3 separate pilots yesterday of a debris field in Diablo Canyon.
You're joking?
No. They've got the coordinates. They've already reported it to the authorities. And
When we found her.
definitely getting pumped up.
Jesus.
There's information coming in at the helicopter control.
Did you get any information from Larry on the GPS coordinates?
I was just referred by Larry.
It seems that there's been confusion about the location of the debris.
Been reported, so he's just confused.
It had already been reported and discounted.
We're talking 2 different things.
It's bogus info.
For Phil and Linda, their high hopes have ended in failure again.
I would like to have been in a position to have left here and found that aeroplane. So in that respect, I feel quite sad.
Chris, thank you.
Leaving here, I just hope that more good can come from it.
We'll be seeing you again soon.
Soon. Let me know what happens.
I will. Absolutely. Thank you.
Despite many tantalizing leads, there's been insufficient evidence so far in Chris Robinson's precognitive dreams to convince a skeptic.
It's clear that lots of people want to believe in the paranormal. There's a huge appetite out there for it. One interesting possibility, and that's all I'd say is that a lot of research into people who claim psychic powers suggests that they have what's called a fantasy-prone personality. They're people who often have very, very vivid imaginations, often very, very creative people. Those kind of people often claim psychic powers and often report lots of ostensibly paranormal experiences.
But with nearly half of even down-to-earth Britain convinced that precognitive dreams are possible, it's unlikely that the skeptics will have the last word.
I have precognitive dreams. I don't believe it only happens to me. It happens to lots of people. And I have people contacting me from all over the world every week, telling me that it's happened to them. And I'm hoping that other people will join in the research so that together we can have a proper understanding of who we are and how we got on this planet.
Last year, 5 featured Juliana Wetmore, who was born without a face. Now, as a 3-year-old, she is about to undergo major constructive surgery. 5 Live follows up with extraordinary people building a new face next. What's next here on 5 is McIntyre's Underworld.
Look forward to Monday.
She just lay pretty much unresponsive for 20 years.
My daughter, who's been silent for 20 years, is now talking again.
Neurologist all over.